Hey, this is Candia Raquel, founder of Centro de Poder, and you are at the Sensual Sessions podcast, the place to experience sensing pleasure through your senses in a way that it's completely free from inhibition. And today we have a very special guest. This is Joni Christine. Welcome, Joni. I am very happy to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Tell us how you got into your work that I understood globally as polarity, but I know there's more to it. So tell us
Yes.
more.
Thank you. Yes. Really my journey started over 20 years ago. I started teaching yoga and meditation and started to really become curious about this concept of embodiment and awareness, presence. And then as those years of teaching yoga kept going by, I got even more curious about psychology. So I ended up going to university, ended up getting a master's degree in what's called somatic counseling psychology. So somatic meaning the body-based psychology. And while actually in 2011 is when I was in between my bachelor's degree and master's degree, and I stumbled upon some books that were talking about this interesting concept that I had no clue about at the time, which is called sacred intimacy or sacred relationship. And reading these books, my mind just was blown away of how we can show up differently in relationship and use our relationship as a tool for spiritual maturity and spiritual growth. And so as I studied those books and I went through grad school, then I actually started doing in-person trainings with some world-renowned teachers on this topic, and eventually even did a teacher training. And so I guess that brings me to here where I am now, where I coach women and couples in sacred intimacy, in embodiment and presence practices.
Nice. So sacred intimacy. That sounds interesting, mysterious, and also a little bit esoteric. Is there something about that? Like, is there some mysticism into it?
Definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
And
yeah, yeah, we good.
okay.
Mysticism.
Mississippi. Yep. Sorry. There might've been a freezing of the internet. Yes. So in this work, we're looking at energy. Like we're definitely looking at the body and the somatics of the work, definitely, but we also are looking at subtle energies as well.
Okay.
And um, so the two most important ones are what is traditionally known as masculine energy, or what my lineage, we call it alpha energy, to help pull the gender stuff out. So alpha energy or masculine energy, and the other energy is feminine or omega energy.
Alpha
And
Omega.
it is, yes, alpha and omega. And we all have both of these energies to varying degrees. And oh, there's a puppy. And just because we may be a certain gender, a certain sex, does not mean that we have to embody just one of those energies. It's like, no, not at all.
Okay.
Right? We can actually become conscious of what energy we're embodying in a particular moment, and we can make choice. Is this the energy I want to embody, or do I maybe want to embody the other energy, or somewhere along the spectrum?
Okay. Alpha and Omega. Can you tell us what is which? Like, because I can make my own conclusions on on interpreting my driven side, my go-getter side, my hustling, my relentless spirit, my confrontative spirit, to my alpha energy, masculine and dominant, or I don't know if that's a dominatrix energy, and
Yeah.
my closet true side of just wanting to be around, not thinking about numbers, nor dates, nor knowing what time of the day it is, and just like smelling the flowers is my omega side. Hi,
Exactly.
yeah, so I'm not so lost.
No, you nailed it on the head. Yes, that's perfect. Yes. Alpha has this purpose orientated, goal focused, penetrative, moving forward type of energy, right? Problem solving, tasks, like making a list with all your tasks, a syllabus, right? Of logical thinking, step-by-step procedures. Alpha.
Okay.
Omega throws those lists out the window. No recipe to follow.
Yes.
It's just moment to moment, enjoying and feeling and expressing. It's about connection and nurture and beauty, and just being alive now.
Aliveness, like the nuanced sensitivity and delight. Okay, so are we like born with a certain tendency or predisposition, or we choose to, like, is it that we one born with that setup of what you like deeply want, or it's a matter of education, or it's ultimately a matter of decision? I am very curious, like, because I have conflicts with my own alpha omega-ness. So I want to know, like, what am I truly?
Well, I say try not to worry so much about this question,
Okay.
because I really see it as multiple factors play a role, right? Who we're born to, how we're born into this world, what part of the world we're born into, right? So there's our family patterns that are included, our social conditionings that are included, our role models, who were around us and how did they impact us.
Okay.
So all of these do play a role in how we developed, how we continue to develop. Because remember, we always do have choice. We're
Okay.
not necessarily a slave to one of these energies or the
Okay.
other,
Okay. Nice.
but we just have to become aware of
Aware.
this freedom and these
Nice.
choices.
Nice. Okay. So realizing what is going on in you as you at the moment in the given circumstance, rather than identifying with a certain energy, with would actually be trying to fit in a role and comply. Like, for example, typical Mexican woman that are expected to get married at 22 and have 3 children. Otherwise, you're like, there's something wrong with you. And if you don't put your head down when the husband is talking, like, oh no, you bad woman, no, you are like not complying with the omega. So that's a setup role that for my own omega style, like it just doesn't work. But then, like, how to, and also there's the alpha in the lower expression of that energy, that is a fucking men that are like being historically abusive, like this violence and etc. So like, I don't want to identify with the role of the omega stereotype, nor the alpha stereotype, because one is abusive and the other is like manipulator, because like this apparently passive role of the submissive women like has this martyr ability to inflict guilt on the other there and turn into moral superiority. So it makes a very interesting smelly but tasting mix. So the question is how to rise above or move aside or just like deal with all the omega alpha stereotypes so we can like at least get curious on what's our true expression in ourselves.
Yes. Yes. Beautiful. So a few things that has stirred up within me.
Yes.
One being, I generally don't like to put ourselves in boxes and labels. And yet at the same time, it can be helpful to know at your core, the core of who you are, which energy may be more your natural energy, right? So even though I have some kick-ass, excuse my language, but
Yes.
yeah, right. I do. Okay, cool,
Yeah,
great.
that's alpha, that's kick-ass.
Right? I do.
Unapologetic.
Yes, I have some kick-ass alpha skills. Like I was able to put myself through college and get a master's degree and work from, I left my parents' house at 15 years old, like I needed to cultivate those alpha skills.
Yes.
And yet at my essence, at my core, I am more of an omega-based being.
Yes.
Right? So this term is energetic agility. That is the ability to move from one energy to the other. But ultimately, my essence is an omega-based being.
Nice.
At the root. And we can talk more about how to identify that in a minute if you'd like. But you also touched on this important topic of like kind of like the unhealthy versions of these energies expressed, right? And so we might say that this is coming from the author David Data, his works.
Yes.
Okay, good. You're familiar. Awesome. Yeah. So he might say that those examples that you gave are like a level 1 of alpha and omega expression, right? And that is where the individual is more focused on self. Right? It's a self-orientated lens that they live through life. Am I getting my needs met? And then, bad on you because you're not helping me, kind of an attitude. And the second level of relating in that kind of way is where we're working together. We're working together. It's like couples therapy, right?
Okay.
Or we read some. Say that again?
Like 50-50, 50% omega, 50% alpha. I am perfectly balanced, but that's like flat lining in terms of energy, I suppose.
Yeah, actually, so what you're talking about is just a little different from what I'm talking about. And let me explain. What I'm talking about is how we navigate relationships.
Okay.
So with level 1 would be where we're just mostly focused on me, myself, and I, and getting my needs met. It's kind of like me. It's a childlike lens, right?
Yes.
Children and no blamed children, right? That's how they develop.
Yes.
But when we start to get in our 20s, 30s, definitely 40s, 50s, and 60s, if we're still navigating at that way,
Good luck.
Exactly. And so the next level of relating is where we can actually consider the other person, and are your needs getting met as well as my needs, right? And so that's where I was like saying, like, this is like a therapy, couples therapy realm, or when we're both reading self-help books or self-improvement books, and we're allowing time for one person to speak and then the other person speaks, right? That's the second way of relating. And then the third level is where this is like the more spiritually mature. This is not common, okay? It's not a common thing, and it's not anything that you need to shame or blame yourself on. It's just a way of living where you're just living as love, moment to moment to moment, no matter if your needs are getting met or not. Right? It can be a level of devotion where you're showing up for your partner when they're in the hospital bed, and you're there every day, not going to your own job, right? And you're showing up in this level of devotion, even though they can't provide anything to you, right?
Right.
So why I'm bringing this up is because we can be still in the alpha and omega in these different ways of showing up in relationship. So it doesn't just have to look like the woman who is just giving, doesn't give eye contact, and it doesn't have to just necessarily be the alpha which is controlling and commanding. It can also look different ways, but still be an alpha or still be an omega.
Yes.
Did I go a little too far out there with that?
Perfect. It's perfect. And if
Okay.
the specialist here didn't get it, like, they can rewind the video or the audio, no problem. Yeah, because like
Great.
this is gold, because it's like the clear structure of 3 levels of development in a certain way to understand. Like, first stage is you're in super selfish mode, either alpha or omega. Like, you are an alpha asshole or an omega weepy, hyper vulnerable, good for nothing lady. Like a 3-year-old. Like, we need to be like that when we are that little, so we don't starve. But like, you cannot successfully keep on navigating the world just on level 1. And level 2, it's like 50-50. That is like a good level to move. And the third stage is to be like more aware and more spiritually developed, so that you're in a position of being the gift of presence. Like, you are more here to give and offer in a devotional way the best that you can beyond your needs, and that's pretty much uncommon.
Right. Yes. Yep.
Nice.
Yep. And we can flow in and out of those different levels. It doesn't like trust me, I still have moments where I can drop down to that level 1 and, not feeling well, right? And just like, I need someone to care for me and, bring me juice or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? We can still do that. Doesn't mean we have to stay there, right? We can come back.
Okay. So, like, if you feel level 3 super heart open after a retreat and maybe ayahuasca, or maybe you just fell in love and you're like that, but like, don't judge yourself if then you fall back into stage 2. Like, those are reversible stages, and navigating through them and striving to at least be on the middle is, I understand, like a practice. And if you fall to level 1, like, I need a hug and I need like chicken soup, like, that's an indicator that you need self-care. Like, you need to go and buy your soup and go to acupuncture or whatever, because you are on that needy state. And as an adult, like try to sort that out. That is very interesting because it's liberating from judgment, and it's like a clear reference of of practical self assessment on how you are, like moment by moment in the world.
Yes.
And it gives you like, once you are aware, then you can do something about it.
Yes. Yep.
Nice.
Yes. Exactly. Right.
Nice.
Empowerment. No,
Empowerment.
that is empowerment. Knowing and then choosing.
Yeah. Know thyself. Yeah. Very, very worthwhile endeavor. So I have a question that you hinted before. So how can we identify what is like the place that we enjoy the most, alpha or omega?
Yes. Great question. Great question. So some questions that you can start asking yourself is let's just talk about sex right now. Is that okay?
Fantastic. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so some simple questions that you can start to get curious about. Do I like to be penetrated more than I like to penetrate another? Or do I like to penetrate another more than I like to be penetrated? Right? Very basic question, right? And that may change depending on the moment, right? Like but generally speaking, in your entire experience, what do you like the most, right? So omega, or the feminine, is one that enjoys to be penetrated, right? Where alpha is the penetrator.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Though I have a question mark face now because I am a woman, biological, and all the rest of defaults. So like genitally speaking, how would penetrating would be like with a cucumber or with a hand? Because like
Right, you could use a lot, you could get so
creative.
creative,
Okay.
right? It could be hands, it could be toes, it could be
The elbow.
it could be a toy, an external, it could be an external device, right? An
Okay.
elbow. I love that, right? So
Yeah, I
that's just
appreciate it.
one, just one way, right? There's
Okay.
also like let's use our voice, for example.
Yeah.
Let's look at the throat and speaking. Are you one to more tell people what to do? Do you like to tell your lover and command your lover on what to do? Or maybe you like more on receiving direction and being told what to do,
Yeah,
right?
I prefer that he already knows everything that I like, that I didn't even knew I liked. But of course, that's a huge demand. Like, give me a gift that I like even more than the gift that I would ask you for.
Right, right. And really with that, we're getting into something else that I would, totally love to talk about. But just let's
In a practical
and
way.
we can go there if you want, but right now let's just talk about, how do you use your voice in the bedroom? Are you one to more tell what to do? Like, for example, a woman telling a man what to do, but the woman is in her alpha and the man is in his omega, right?
Right.
She might, like you brought up, you brought in dominatrix, right? Like that is a good, perfect example of a woman being in alpha,
Okay.
right? And telling the man, get on the bed, bend over, right? And then like, using touch, right? In a commanding kind of way. It doesn't have to be harsh or hurting. It's just commanding and
Yeah.
directing. It's leading the way. Yes, right? Where omega is more about surrendering, is about following, is about opening up and allowing and receiving.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Nice. It makes sense because like it's not the same like if you like to be on the bottom and the guy on top, and you like to feel the weight of the guy and like be moved through his movement, than if you like to ride the guy. Like you just sit there and here I go. Because
Right. Here's another example. This is one of looking at, so far we talked about the genitals, right?
yes,
The sex. We
yes,
talked about the voice. And
yes.
here's an example from the mind, right? Do you like to feel your lover's attention on you and them enjoying your body and your pleasure? Like seeing, right?
Yeah,
Or
of
do
course.
you want their attention, right? Like so an alpha based being wants to see omega in ecstasy, and
Yeah,
that's how they get pleasure.
yeah,
Omega feels the pleasure rippling through her body. She's lost in all the sensation and enjoying, like you said, being on top. It's not that she's on top to give him pleasure and to watch him have his own experience. That would be an alpha.
yes.
She's on top and enjoying the movement and the feeling and the sensations. She might not even be totally aware that he's right there. She's
Yeah,
still
yeah.
lost and submersed.
Yes, yes, definitely. That for me nailed the. Now I officially hereby declare myself Omega. It's very clear. Like if you want to be the center of the attention, or you prefer that your attention is focused on the beloved being like lost in ecstasy. And now I recalled something from my dance teacher that was the director of one of the companies that I danced in, that one time he said, there's no greater pleasure than generating it, than producing pleasure. Like there's no greater pleasure than creating pleasure. And for me it was like, what? No, there's no greater pleasure than pleasure.
Than experiencing pleasure, right?
Yeah, like how come the pleasure of creating pleasure is greater than pleasure itself? No, you're wrong.
Perfect example of alpha and omega experiences. Totally different.
Yeah, yeah, and now I get it. And he also said like, no, I like to dance, I like to be on stage, but I enjoy the most being backstage organizing the dance in the theater. So like he prefers to be like the puppeteer with the puppets in sort of a Machiavellical way. But of course, yes, he's very masculine, though he's gay, and that's
Doesn't
very
matter,
interesting.
right?
So
Yeah, yeah.
he's gay, but he is most comfortable on his alpha.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like, yeah, and it happened to me with a boyfriend. Like, no, you cannot be enjoying more than me and getting, you cannot get lost here because then we're gonna end nowhere. And if we are going nowhere, I don't need you because I can take myself alone somewhere
Right.
better than it seems that you can take me.
Yes, exactly. I love that. That's why it can be so helpful to know what your core is so that you're not even, you can bypass the whole like 9-month relationship or whatever with someone who is actually more like a friend to you
Exactly, because
than,
we are in 50-50.
right. Yes.
Yeah, very clarifying and useful. And like
Mhm.
there's no there's no point of getting into an intimate situation of someone that gets pleasure in the same way that you can do, unless you're willing to surrender. And more than not a devotional surrender, if you, more like you're willing to give up your own satisfaction to play the other polarity of energy to satisfy the other, but that's more like a sacrifice than a true gift.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so it's
That
nice.
might not last very long.
That
That might not last very long.
Yeah, and I got along very well with this teacher director, even though he is gay and everything, because like he was very good in alphaness, though it wasn't an intimate relation, it was like a work collaboration, but like with his this leads to my next question, that is polarity in non intimate relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
polarity for your everyday life question. So I got along very well with this teacher. Like he like I could welcome his direction with no kind of resistance, because for me it was trustworthy. It was very like we matched perfectly, and like I healed, and like one of the most important people in my life. Though, other than that, like the 4 times that I tried to be an employee and that filed for a job, like there was like against the wall. Like I have a certain kind of omega and alpha combo that makes my omega rise in opposition. No, my alpha, like my direction, my directive energy gets triggered, so to say, very quickly if I don't get like a certain kind of alpha quality with the person I am dealing with. So like,
Yes.
yeah, like with the boyfriend, like, okay, if you don't know what to do, then I am going to do what is needed for both of us, and I solve this and get this thing done, and like next. So how does that play? And what is a good way to become more aware of our day-to-day alpha omega polarity, so we can navigate regular life in a more deliberate and proactive,
Conscious. Mm-hmm.
conscious, and even generous way. Not non-sacrificial, but generous.
I love that. I love that question so much. So I'm just going to recap on what we talked about already, and then I'm going to add on to that. Great. So I find it helpful to use the image of a like a piano, the keys of a piano, right? And omega, we'll say, are the more high notes, the softer, lighter notes, and alpha, the more stronger notes, right? And we can, we can play anywhere on that range. Some of us, though, are limited to just a few keys. Let's just be real, right? And their work is learning how to move more up and down that range. But so I'm going to stop there for a second. Okay. So we have alpha and omega, or excuse me, omega and alpha. Now I'm going to bring in this concept called the 3 ways of relating. This is different than what we've already talked about, okay? This is specific to alpha and omega and how we relate to another person within these energies. So we have alpha, alpha. Both people are in alpha. This creates, this is good when we're business partners. Okay. This is good when we're co-parenting and we're trying to, run a household together, right? This is good when we're working on a project together, right? There's a goal, a mission, and we're both on it. But it can also lead to butting heads.
Yes.
My way's the best. No, my way's the best. And I'm going to prove it to you, right? There is no sexual chemistry here.
At all.
whatsoever. No, dead, gone, right? The second way is each person shows up in omega and omega. This is great for friendships, right?
Okay.
This is so beautiful, heartwarming connection,
Okay.
right? But with your lover, this can look like on the weekend night, cozying up together on the couch and watching Netflix or movies and eating popcorn and pizza or whatever it is, right? Like, but there's no juicy sexual chemistry. It's just you're chilling. That's it,
Yes.
right?
That's it. Yeah.
It could also look like you both are having and both are experiencing emotion at the same time, like you're processing some deep emotion, both of you, right? You might both be crying around something, right? This again is omega omega, and this is more like friends, no sexual chemistry.
Yeah.
And I see this
Roomies.
right, in movies, and I hear it when my clients come to me and they say, we're more like friends, we're more like roommates than we are lovers, right? So that's that dynamic. Now the third way of relating is where one person is an alpha and one person is an omega. And it doesn't matter who it is. It depends on the moment. But as long as there's polar opposite energies, then there's that sexual charge. And so this is a game. I want to emphasize it. Do not worry. Do not become obsessed and stressed out. I have to live in polarity. I have to always be in the opposite energy of my partner. When you do that, you are no longer in the present moment, right? So rather than stressing out about it, just develop a playful sense of curiosity and just start checking in. What energy am I in right now? So this is a common problem that I see with women who come to work with me, is that, again, they're badasses in their job, in their profession, right? They're killing it. They're either entrepreneurs or they just do great at their work. And when they come home and their partner is there, and their partner may also be an alpha-based being, and now suddenly they're relating an alpha, and they can't get out of that dynamic, right? And so we work together with how can you better become aware that you're in alpha energy when you want to switch into omega, and then the transition of switching into omega. It's like a muscle. As you first start to develop it, right, you're like, I don't want to go to the gym and work out. There's resistance. And then your arm starts to get sore because you're lifting weights, right? And you're like, this is uncomfortable, right? But after a few months of doing it, all of a sudden it's easy. And you're like, yeah, I got this, right? And you start to see definition. So that's the same with working with these energies, right? At first, you're a little clumsy. There's a little resistance. You're going to stumble a bit, but as you keep doing it, it becomes easier and easier and easier, and you become better and faster and more efficient at doing it. Now, with your example, which I just truly appreciate, because again, with a lot of the women I work with, this comes up. Now, I have a very specific program. It's a group program for women where we explore you didn't quite touch on this, but I'm going to bring it in here. This what I call a relative sense of safety.
Yes.
If our alpha-based partner is not showing up fully, we can feel that.
Definitely.
Right?
It hurts. It's like you're lukewarm and I am here all open like a lettuce and you're doing nothing. Like I'm gonna rot if I'm next to you.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And then we can get triggered
into
right?
alpha.
Yep. And we can close and collapse. And then we can start to take charge and be like, look, my alpha's got this, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't want to blame or shame that, right? There's a time and place. And sometimes that is very appropriate. But if we're wanting to go deeper into these practices and learn how to inspire our partner to step up their game.
That inspire him. And that
Right.
that won't happen from the alpha. Like, you have to be the alpha. And I am telling you, no, like then you're like his mother, and it's like a castrating position. So
Exactly.
yeah, and it's very difficult because like it happened to me with one boyfriend. Like, I want him to do what I want, but and and if I tell him and he doesn't do it, I'm gonna get super angry. But if I tell him and he does what I tell him to do, I am gonna hate him even more because I'm gonna feel that he has no balls to stand on his own and he's letting me manipulate him. So it was like, and I told my shrink about it, and he just laughed like, like yeah, like, and he told me that is neurosis. And yeah, of course. And yeah, and now I am getting it. The operative word here is inspiration, not commanding. And that inspiration is challenging in an unchallenging way because it cannot be a, a plan and a strategy and a directive to inspire him, because then it's doing something to get something and then it won't work. So would you
Yes.
share with us an exercise on how to tap into this naturally inspiring omega self, especially for us workaholic go-getter women, and like, yeah, most of the sensualists are like that. They are like accountants, lawyers, single mothers, and that is very necessary because these alpha tools won't work if you're going for embodying the omega side of the equation of passionate polarity and pleasure.
Right.
Right.
Yes. So I do want to just stress what you said, because you said it so well and it's so right on. Like we may have these moments where we're not even aware that we're telling our partner what to do and how to do it. So that is a huge first step, is starting to actually hear what we're saying, or how, are we telling them to take out the trash? Are we reminding them to clean up the counter? Are we telling them how to perform on us sexually? Right? Like there's all these different ways. And as we start realizing all the ways that we may engage in this behavior, we might start to feel blame or shame. Don't bother with blame or shame.
Yes.
Recognize it for what it is. Take ownership. You can apologize if you say something and then you realize it. Go ahead and apologize, and then try again.
Okay.
Try it a different way.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Right. And so what is so important in these moments is when we're really focused on what we want and how we want it, we're acting from that level 1 stage. Remember, all about me, mine, and what I want. Right. So I call this is like a craving, that we're acting from this craving, right? What we would ideally love to do is actually come from a place of equanimity.
Yes.
Right. So this is meaning like, I can have this or I cannot have this. Either way, I'm still going to show up as love.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And that is more like that third stage. And it's hard. It's hard. Yeah. I'm not going to lie. It's hard. But if we can, we can baby steps, try it on with baby steps, right? And rather than directing, maybe if you could give me a very specific example, that will be best. So if something comes to you, let me know. In the meantime, I'll just give an example. Let's say we're having an experience where our partner may be performing oral sex on us.
Yes.
Say that, right? And they're going about things and we're just like, what the heck? Like, no, this isn't good. Like, and if we hold that back, we all know what happens when we hold that back. Like, that's terrible, right? And we'll keep getting the same thing over and over and over again, right? Because they think we're enjoying it, right? Alpha-based beings are more dense, especially compared to omega beings. Okay, I like to compare by saying omega is like a sensitive flower where it can open with the sunlight or close with the moonlight, right? And alpha is more like a rock, right? It needs this harder shell because it's penetrating the world, penetrating us, right? It needs this thick skin.
Yes.
Right? So they need our constant feedback. Notice I say feedback rather than criticism or complaining, right? So even just allowing them, to know like, no, ouch, right? Anything to that can penetrate their thicker skin, let them know that isn't the way, right? And then when they do start to do something that does feel good, we have to let them know that too. Oh, yes, that. Oh, more. Yes, that, right? Letting them know, giving them cues. As my teacher Justin likes to say, in the bedroom for Alpha, it's like they're driving a race car through the canyon, the mountain canyons, right? At like 90 miles an hour with no headlights.
Bam.
Right? When we don't give these cues, when we don't say yes or no, or
they fall through the cliff just with one sincere, hurtful comment, like castrating mother style. That like you. There was one time that I told my then boyfriend, like, what am I supposed to do with this? Can you recover even more quickly? And then like 30 seconds later, I told him, like, go to your house, go to your mom's house and come back when you're hard. And ooh, he never came back. No, that's the formula to end a relation, because as hard as they are, they are also very fragile when they are faced to the cliff of these mountain canyons. Like, they are really doing their best driving this Formula One car at full speed, like, to please you. And if you come with nothing is ever enough because I don't feel deserving of pleasure because I have that problem, then you're risking hurting the other person. So that's, I think, at the core of this situation was my actual lack of presence in relation to him. And I spoke through a hurt part of myself that was criticized, like, in that tone when I was in my alpha, probably. And I just used him as a scapegoat to retaliate. That now I recognize that that was a coward thing to do. But you said, like, don't stay feeling guilty. So yeah, but that happens. Like, if you're not aware, like, in the midst of emotions, like, the worst can get out. So yeah, I like a lot what you say on giving feedback, but it's what I get from how you expressed the concept of feedback is that it's not a discursive, rationalized feedback. It doesn't even sound like having an agenda, but it sounds more like a felt, sensed feedback on just fleshly voicing what's going on in the moment, like ow, or like yes, more, or whatever, and that's sincere. Like the other person cannot get offended because maybe it would hurt the negative feedback, but if if it's like sincerely true with not an ill intention, but just like a we're in this together, and like it's actually
Beautifully.
the outcome of what we both are doing, and it's feedback, yes, for you, but also from maybe the position of my leg. So the full combo that we are doing, it's not working. Let's do something. You figure it out because you are on the driving seat. I have to tell you.
Yes, yes, right. And
You know, a little thing, because otherwise we are both falling on the cliff, on the canyon, because you're actually driving, you're actually in that car next to him.
yep, yep, yes, yes.
You
So if
have
he
to
falls, you fall.
so you are the one that has to sense the curves and whatever that he cannot see with the lights of the car. You have to sense it in the flesh
Yeah.
that you are. This is very interesting.
Yeah, this is sacred intimacy. Yes, yes. And so when we're expressing ourselves, rather if it's like you said with the just with sound and ouch and ooh and ahs, or if we get more, I'll include some actual language we could use, but that will be a different level. We're doing this without blame or shame.
Without
That's the
blame or
key.
shame. Yes, without
No
blame or
blame
shame.
and shame. Yeah.
Yeah, with that was exactly my mistake, giving feedback to that poor guy. And at the end, I was actually blaming and shaming myself. I was
Yeah.
like yeah, finding a scapegoat to a sensation in me. So it's it's very important what you say, presence, moment by moment, and come forth to the encounter with the beloved as love, no matter if he's not fulfilling your needs in that moment. Like show up as love and give that feedback from that place.
Yeah. 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 So if we notice this sense of agitation or, this thing that we really want that we're so focused on, this craving, right? I like to say, get curious with compassion, right? Really look at it. What need is not being met that you really desire, that you really want? And how can you express that again in a way without blame or shame, right? So it'd be, I need to feel your touch on my shoulders right now. I need to feel your arms around my body, right? Try to avoid things like, I need to feel safe. I need to feel loved, because there's no action there,
Yeah, it's
right?
vague.
It's
It's
not
not
clear.
specific. It's not actionable for the alpha to take action on.
Right.
Yeah,
Yep.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. This is wonderful.
Mhm. And then you'll find, so we're actually going back to what you were saying earlier. When we start to live in this way, with presence, which presence is made up of awareness, sensitivity, and equanimity. So
Okay.
all those three things, that's what real true presence is: awareness, sensitivity, equanimity. So when we can live from there more and more, moment to moment to moment, we actually invite our alpha lovers to blow our minds away. When we're not telling them what to do, but we are letting them know what our needs are and letting them know what feels good and what doesn't, suddenly the impossible will happen. Things that we didn't even think were imaginable. He can show up and be our hero in this way and just blow our minds away, right? You know this experience.
Yes, definitely. And that is inspiration. That is the state from where inspiration, like you become that. Nice, nice. This is fantastic. Joni, Christine, thank you very much. This is a good one. This is a good one. Sensualist, please share this everywhere. Send it to your best friend, to your aunts, aunties, your grandmother. I don't know. Yeah, yes, because they will know what we're talking about. Because I get the feeling that this is like something essential that, of course, get distorted with culture and everything. But like, there's a sense to it when you are like naturally embodied. And it's fantastic that we have this language that you're sharing and this clarity to like become aware and come back to the wavelength that we are feeling like more at home with at the moment by moment.
Right.
Um,
Love.
yeah, love. Thank you, Johnny Christine. Tell us, how can we know more about your work?
Thanks. Yeah. So I am becoming more and more active on Instagram. So I'll direct everyone there. Joni Christine Fraser is the
The
handle.
handle.
Yeah. And I did just do a series, a live series with a men's coach who's also a sacred intimacy teacher. And it's a great way to get more around these concepts around presence, polarity, the sexual chemistry. And then a third piece that we didn't really touch on this call is devotion.
Devotion. Nice.
Yep. And devotion to love itself, devotion to God, or, devotion to whatever is greater than ourselves.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful essence. Okay. Thank you. So, the sensualist, go to Instagram and follow Joni Christine Fraser there. Check out her new course with this great coach and learn more about what we talk about. That is polarity and relationships, and of course, love. And if you haven't subscribed already to the Sensual Sessions podcast, go to centrodepoder.com and get yourself signed up to get these episodes weekly on your inbox. Until then, please remember to take the time to sense your fire so you can share the flame.